Hello, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday's Live. Back to landscapes this week. After some workouts with figures, I still want to play with those and get better at them. But this was a lovely little site in Croissy-sur-Eure in Normandy. I'm going to try and get you guys adjusted here. There we go. Very eye-catching building. I don't know why it caught my eye, because the town is just picturesque and many, many beautiful sights. But something about this conical roof and the stone of the building just drew my eye. And it wasn't just me. One of the nice things about traveling with a group of people is they're all taking pictures, and everybody gets we can share them and show each other. I might add, my friend Cindy Mitchell. Hi, Kathy. She caught this donkey just a little bit down from the where it actually the subject is. I might put an animal in there. My friend Carol took this picture from virtually the same, hi Jen, virtually the same angle, perhaps a little further back. But look at the wonderful Z pattern that is created, leading your eye from here. We jump across here, back to there. And I'm considering using something like that. I'm going to modify the composition a bit. Let's see. Another thing I'm considering is there were some nice flowers. There's this, whatever that was, and then a little further to the left, you can see the same building, and there were some poppies coming up there. I think it's all things that could be put in there. But I'm going to try and make a decision as I do this. I do want to keep, hi Jan, I do want to keep the building as the subject right about there. I'm debating whether to include this hay rake, which is surprisingly like the ones we have from the same time period. Nearly identical. Hi, Michael. Today what I want to do is I want to talk you through the exact same decisions that I make and why I make them, hopefully. So I think for starters, I'm just going to find my key horizontals and verticals. That would be the horizontal. This would be the vertical. So I'm just going to kind of lightly indicate them. I might put this on a bit of a pitch. Sort of slowly. And that will give me a little more fun with the wall there. So that helps me make the decision. Tree line will be about here. You probably can't see these marks. I'm going to have that. I have no idea what that thing is. I'm going to say it looks like a hydrangeas or something. About this tall. Hi, James. I'm going to start out with a triangle here. I'm not going to include as much sky because there really wasn't a whole lot going on. First, I'm going to start with the triangle. And here again, this is where you could do the point method. And then you look at where your points are, and if it looks like the proportions of the object. Now there's a slight, I'm starting with a straight line. Hi, Mim. And I'm going to make to indicate the roundness. It's a lovely, some sort of, I'm guessing cedar shake maybe, roof. A little side down. One thing to notice, on this you want to like hold your pencils, and so we know that this is level to the ground, the top of the peak of that roof, but perspective says it is a little bit leaning. Hi Denise, hello. And again, I might try the point method here. I'll put my points in, and if it looks like the correct proportions, then I will put them in. Hi, Becky. Also, notice that this point will not be level with this point when we're doing perspective, because it will be a little higher. Or a little lower. It could. It's a lot of it's going to depend on where you're standing. Not much eave on it, at least not on that side. On this side there is. Stone fence coming in this direction. There seems to be another roof here. I guess it's like a lean-to shed or something. So I'm going to try to bring that down. It creates a... Then we have the, again, the foliage, whatever that is. The opening here, again, the opening, we know it's level to the ground, but in perspective it's going to be a slight lean. Always hold your pencil up to these things, or some straight object, and that will help. Oh, this comes out over that does a little bit, doesn't it? So we have to go back here. So you can adjust these things once you've got your key points in there. So top of the... I liked the, it does come out a little bit. I'm going to bring that out. It was a brighter red, so we've got that little note of red. Might have been part of what caught my eye, against all the greens. And the more I look at this, the more I want it to be about the building. We have something that's creeping over the probably some multiflora rose type thing, or a vine. I'm leaving the building and drawing the foliage over on top of it, and then I'm going to erase all the lines which I do not want before I start with the erasing. More of this, whatever that is, over here. Now I have to think about, how am I going to get those flowers in there? Do I want to try and paint around them? Do I want to... So, oh, Alani, hello. Oh, thank you. Now there's a group of trees behind, which I think are nice. So it's a wonderful softening effect when you have a hard geometry shape. To have something organically shaped or naturally shaped to kind of soften that hard transition there. Nice little shadow in there, I like that. Nice shadow in here too. There is some dark windows in there we almost don't see. I like by cutting that across here, I soften that hard rectangle, and while leaving enough to tell the viewer that yes, it is a window, there's a rectangle there. I'm going to minimize, I'm going to leave a little bit of what I'm going to call an escape hatch. Way out of the picture. And start erasing some. I mean, you really don't even have to do that. I mean, when you paint, these are darker, so it's going to cover those anyway. So we don't have to worry about that. Darken some of this up so you can see it. Now the foreground. What are the possible strategies I can use here? Obviously, I want to put a lot of texture in the grass. I do think I want to put the flowers in. I might smuggle this post in just to break up that interval, because this interval and this interval are rather close. So I can use this to kind of break that up. I'm always wary of creating horizontal intervals of space that are too similar, and likewise the vertical elements. I don't want the sky section and the land. See, in this instance, the sky section and the land section are about equal. Kind of flattens the space out. Or if you got 3 equal bands or 4 equal bands, it tends to look like a banner or a flag. So, oops, okay, back here. Carol's Lovely Z. I think I want to try and accomplish that with, oh gee, it would be fun to put a donkey in here. Sorry, Cindy, I don't think I'll put the donkey in, but he could be a subject on his own. And that there is a picture too. What do I want to include? Some flowers, I believe. I might sneak a shadow in from stage right, because the light is coming from this direction, so I might have something shading the grass in here. Or saying perhaps we're a little further to the right of the hay rake. I've decided against the hay rake because it could become a competing subject with the building, and I think the building is really what it's all about. This particular style of architecture goes back to medieval Norman times, and I'm pretty sure this one is maybe newer than that, but the stonework is beautiful, and they appear to have, whenever they've repaired it, they've tried to keep it period correct so far as possible. Just a lovely little, that really does come right back here. And that allows me to, hi Catherine. That little shadow here. I love things like that. I don't know why. I guess I don't have to have a reason, really. So, okay. Now, let's think about how we're going to paint this. Certainly there's going to be some green involved. So I've got out a variety of yellows and a variety of blues. So I'll just talk about the colors and the materials for a second. It's a quarter sheet, 11 by 15 inches of Saunders Waterford cold press. The colors today that we'll probably be using, certainly the Prussian blue for getting some strong greens, ultramarine blue or cerulean blue probably in the sky, burn umber, quinacridone sienna, it's transparent red oxide. Probably will be in the stone and the roofs there. Probably get into my cad red light, or maybe even some of the quinacridone rose for the nice tile section of roof there. My yellows, I have yellow ochre. I have my cad yellow light / aureolin, which is everything gets squirted in there. I have a orangier yellow, which I believe is one of those. There are many, many, many orange yellow pigments. And I also have the Nicolazzo yellow, which makes interesting greens. The indigo, I might be using the indigo to create a duller green. So first thing I'll do is, what are my lights? It's going to be the stone wall, these areas in here, parts of the wood shakes. Looks like they've replaced some newer shakes and left some of the older ones, or repaired them as they're going, so they age a little bit differently. Let's pull this out to about the dimensions I have. There we go. So, let's start out. I'm going to use probably the Oriental brush. I don't need to carry a lot of water here, and I'm going to get, just for starters, just some burn umber. And looks a wee bit too brownish, so I'm going to put a little bit of lavender in it to cool it and gray it. So this looks dark, I know. Of course, I'm going to get right down into where any of the foliage is. This fence post in there where it is darker. I might make it a little more red oxide and lavender, because I just want a little bit of difference and a bit more water. And I know this looks, maybe some yellow ochre or this French gold ochre that I got when we were in Paris. Right through the trees, right through the dark parts. Just make sure, I'm going to touch a little bit here, a little bit there. Which normally you wouldn't want to do something like that because you might create a blossom. and I am creating a bit of difference there in the color. I may even put in some very, very pale lavender touch in. But those blossoms I'm hoping will create the general effect of perhaps some of the texture in the stonework. I am going to try to indicate that. I'll put a little more yellow ochre, or maybe some of this Naples yellow. Oh gosh, yeah. Let me rinse this. Naples yellow, I think, in here. Maybe a little bit of it there. No two pieces of stone are going to be alike. So, while that's well, let's see. We need to get into the roof too, don't we? So let's go back to it's a little redder to me. I'm going to get some reddishness and some burn. Well, let's see. Burn umber and cad red light might be nice for something like that. Indian red, which is just another one of the red iron oxides, probably would be good too. Some of that sneaks into the stonework. We won't worry too much. Because there is going to be a shadow in there. I'm going to get in here with some alizarin. Not alizarin. Well, the alizarin substitute, I should go, or the quinacridone rose. Maybe just the more vivid reds to create this area in here. Now, let's take that, a lot of water, and some indigo. Why indigo? Because it's blue, red, purple. Let's go over here. I'm looking for something that's different. It does actually, I have to admit, it looks sort of yellowish, reddish. But very pale in the middle and a little darker on the sides. I'm probably going to have to go a little darker. Just some burnt umber in there. Hey, John, you could go darker still. A bit of that indigo. What I don't think you're going to be able to see on my palette is these pockets are sort of slanted that the paint's in. I mean, maybe you can see that here. So I squeeze the paint into the back. Keep painting, John, so you don't lose what you're doing here. And then that's where the thicker, creamier paint is. And the little bit of water that gathers in front gives me an area where I can get a lighter version of the color, so to speak. So I just, some of this in some water, and I brought this here, and hopefully this will approximate, for the time being, what I've got going there. Rinsing, squeezing. No, I'm not going to remove that. I'm going to allow that to work. And I'm going to touch in here. Just to get it a little more modulated. Is that the word I want? I think that'll do. Yeah, okay. Green time. And I'm going to want to mix up some strong greens. So let me wipe these out so you can see them. And a variety of greens. So when you've got a big swath of green stuff here like that, also there's a little bit of a metal cap at the top here. I'm just going to, a little bit of lavender and some water. So I'm first thinking, what's our strategy for the greens? Well, we need to make this look like it's proceeding back. Reseeding, proceeding. Which one gives us the best? Yeah, okay. You can see, because we're looking at the seed heads of some of these grasses, that gives it a grayer, tawnier look. Down here we get the more vivid greens. So I'm going to start out with my yellow and make a more vivid green here and a less vivid green there. Or I might make two kinds of green and then modify them by lightening them with water if necessary, or bringing in some red or something to dull them down. Okay, let's get a vivid green here. That's that Nicolazo yellow. Rinse, blot, Prussian. So that's a pretty vivid green. In fact, probably too vivid. Make a lot because we got a lot of real estate to cover here. So if it's too vivid, maybe the thing to do is use ultramarine, because it's not quite as perfectly greenish. Well, it doesn't have the greenish bias that Prussian blue does. So, golly. Make a lot, make a lot. So there's my vivid green. Again, I don't want to get it too vivid because the shadows will be a little more vivid than the grass itself. I'll explain why later. So I need some headroom to be able to do that. So I'm going to put a little bit of alizarin in it, or alizarin substitute. The quinacridone, the modern colors. Now a duller green. So let's start with the cerulean or the ultramarine, which are not as vivid as the Prussian. And then we'll go for a yellow that's not quite as vivid. Let's try this gold ochre. Let's make more of that. Cerulean, gold ochre. So for starters, I need to think about that too. And they need to be darker as well. So good thing to do when you're dealing with greens. First, suss out the differences between the foreground, background, the ground plane, which is receiving light from the plane of the sky, and the vertical things, which may be receiving some light, but are darker naturally or just not receiving as much light. So I need to be able to, when I put this down, hopefully it will not be as, I'll have headroom to make these darker without having to take them near black. So I think I'm gonna get a bigger brush for the application. Hi, Vicky. So, let's start with I'll skip on those. The trees and the vines. The ones in the background, of course, are going to be probably painted very bluish, maybe even taking them towards a teal or a blue-green, so that they stay behind these, the foreground. They're kind of similar to there's a fair bit of distance between here and here, and the values are the same, so the hue has to, so if your two values are very similar, then the hue has to be differentiated so that they sit in their respective spaces. So let's get, for starters, our less subdued green, our more subdued green, and don't matter if I get a little bit up into the area with the bushes and things, because they're going to go darker and be greener. While we're in that, just take some of the components and a little denser, slower moving version of the same thing to create some modulation in the green. Keep that edge wet. This edge is closest to me, so the most of it there. I try to leave some little light skips. Yeah, okay, now let's start going to this green. Catch that wet edge. Maybe do a transitional between the two greens. And then again, I'm going to get some of this down here. I can leave some light skips. Maybe I could paint some flowers in there or something, but they may have to go in opaquely. Now, let's get the creamier versions of that mix. Creamier meaning slower moving, more pigment, less water. We can tap in to get some texture, and notice I'm going sideways so that I'm not sending stuff into the sky or the buildings. I did want to have some what appeared to be a shadow coming out here. See, that's slow moving. It's not running like the others did. Just back and forth push. There's the paper, the surface of the paper there's still a bit of water on it. So that gives me bit of leeway to bring in new color without getting a distinct, obvious mark. Let's splatter a bit of this too. Okay, we're at the holy mess stage. Hi, Asya. So, gonna get a little bit of, I'm rinsing the Oriental brush, a little bit of the blue, ultramarine blue, maybe some, well, let's get some of this too. Make a bluish green, but a duller bluish green. Put a bit of water, rinse that brush, and just bring the damp brush into this. Maybe a little more of that. Now, when I use a wet brush, you may be able to see that it's going to create a light spot with a dark edge. Or I could rinse the brush, squeeze it out, and because there's water on the surface here and the glisten has just gone off, I can pull out some perhaps some grass. Rinse, squeeze. Or I could use my fingernail. Can't get that sort of thing up there, but then I wouldn't see that sort of thing up there. Still want to splatter a bit of these. It might have been better if I had just gently wet this edge before I started the first green. And then it would have got a little bit of a softer kind of edge. But now, this looks dry enough that I can do the sky. Now, where is it? Get a paper towel to wipe out a clean area. Not too clean areas, what the heck. And I'm probably going to have to get any green out of my ultramarine pocket there because I don't want to have green in the sky. Got enough green going on in the bottom of the picture. So, bigger brush, the mop. And yeah, we're at the holy mess stage here. Let's take out the green, the excess green. I know I've mentioned it before, but if you didn't happen to see that one, I do not use Prussian blue in the sky, or any green bias blue in the sky, because I'm almost always going to need it for foliage. So that way the earth and the sky harmonize but don't read together. So this I'm going to have to do as a sort of I'm doing an ultramarine cerulean combination, which is usually makes for a good sky. Granted, you can see, I can't think of a single color that I've not seen in the sky, but green skies usually indicate very bad weather, or weather you would not want to be experiencing. So a runny mix, it's gonna, because I want to do a beaded wash, and I'm going to have to very carefully work around that conical building. I've got some fudge by areas that I don't have to be as careful on. It's right about here because there's some tree in there. I just have to be very cagey with that first pass and not get, let's put a little bit more. Pull to it. While there's wet there, where that bead is there, oh, look at that. Fortunately, what you do is you cut off the supply line. And let's see if we can do something with that. Texture. That's going to be darker anyway. So the bead is waiting for me. I'm at a 45-degree angle, by the way. And now I need to don't need to worry about getting into the bush. And rinse and make it a little lighter as I come down. Well, actually, rinse it out and just go to water. Right down into this area here, which is going to be foliage, so we can lose it there. Rinse, squeeze, mop up the excess. Now, I'm going to take that with this brush and see if I can and I do want to get a little dark with the brown anyway, so I think I'm okay there. Now, all of this needs to be dried. And we really, hi Lisa, we really are at the holy mess stage now. And as usual, and I sincerely hope that as the darker tones go in, the image will start to appear for us. So a lot of ultramarine blue and perhaps some yellow ochre, just enough to bias it green. Why is that not wetting up? There we go. Test it. Not dark enough. I'm going to get the indigo. And because it's a dull blue, oh, see, that's too, well, I just found the color for that. Look at there. Okay, let's go back over here. Indigo. Orangey. No, I found the color for that now. Indigo. And yellow ochre. A duller, darker green. Yeah, come on. Oh, I know. This is the Daniel Smith yellow ochre. It's not as powerful as the M. Graham. Put a little cerulean in it. There we go. It does not look blue, but I'm going to make it bluish to keep it away from the front. Get most of the paint off the brush. I should just blot it so I can get a broken edge to suggest foliage. Let's make it a little bluer still. A lot of times you can see this color. It does, you know, the trouble with the photo is it's going to record colors a little more vividly than you might see them. Hi, Karen. And I think maybe I'll touch a bit of the ultramarine into the bottom of that. Because if you're looking here, and this is in your peripheral, vision, it will look dull and gray or blue to you. The minute you look out there, then your eye will adjust for that distance, that level of illumination, and you'll see the color in all the variations and the shadows and things and then this goes out of focus. So I'm going to splatter some of that in there too, just for the additional fun of it. Okay, now this character. I'm going to try to leave some white blossoms behind. So that was, what did we get? It was indigo and this. Not more indigo. But I feel like I could probably paint those blossoms on in white a little more easily. So using a similar strategy to what we used in the grass, I'm going to just dip right into that creamy paint and apply some of it so that there's some modulation between the two component colors. Very, very, very tip to get the leaves on the outside. Now when I get down here in the bottom, where the shadows are, I'm going to dip right into the indigo and use that. Or I could, now this is an example of a slow-moving paint applied here, and then a not moving or tube strength paint to create the deep shade areas. And because it is so much denser, in other words, less water, it is going to not spread out evenly like the paints did down here. I'm going to go right into ultramarine just for some variation. Rinse that, blot that right into the ultramarine, and I'm going to bring that out a bit into the grass because it is casting a bit of shade onto the grass itself. So a bit of shade coming off of this post. More of the dipping right into the indigo, creamy. The dark spaces, you'll notice, tend to be larger at the bottom and smaller as they go up. And don't put them in randomly as if they were chips on a cookie. Something. There is a bit of logic to it. If you look at something long enough, you'll see the visual logic of it. There does seem to be one of those over here on the corner too. So I'm going to get back into this. And where else are we? Now we had a slightly greener, well, let's see. A little bit of the alizarin to make it different. This, whatever it is, again, I'm going to put in the main color and then I'm going to tip in the indigo. Let's get some more red in that. So I want it to read differently than that green. I'm going to blot the brush, and there'll be very little, and blot it some more. Get most of the paint off. So as I come out here, I can get a more broken stroke. There is no light spots. This is the light spot, what we're painting now. I'm going to let some of it come up here and overlap that red roof. Okay, rinse, blot right into the tube strength indigo. Now these marks are going to tend to be a little smaller than the ones over here. This one's behind the wall, it looks like. And then the other thing is spilling down over. I'm going to put a little turquoise in that. And some of this yellow. Get yet a different green. My only requirement for it is that it be different than these two. And that it be darker, slightly darker than the surrounding grass. There's some vines. I'm betting this is some sort of, well, I have no idea what it is. I'm not a plant guy. My wife would have known. There is some, I'm going to get the Prussian and the turquoise. There is some slight shadow underneath it where it meets the wall. And there is a bit of, we've been getting the indigo, just a bit very dark in spots. This looks like it's going to need to be restated. Okay, where are we going from here? All right, let's go back to our roof, our conical roof. I'm going to wipe up some of this green. Save that blue. I might be able to use that for something. And some lavender to dull it down. Blot some of that paint off. Try and take advantage of the texture of the paper. I can use my finger there. Underneath, I'm going to get some of the red iron oxide and just put it in this dark green. Get right into the bottom edge of this roof here. Some yellow ochre. I'm getting the blue out. I'm cleaning it now. So, yellow, let's put it over here. Yellow ochre with a little bit of lavender. Tells it, well, kind of goes greenish. Nah, let's wipe all that out. I want to get the shadow underneath that. I'm mopping. Sienna and yellow ochre. Maybe a little bit of that. Let's see if that gives me what I'm looking for here. Just about. Yeah. shadow is warmish. Some of that in here too. But rinsing, drying. When it gets to over here, it turns bluish. Now I do see a odd green behind there, so I'm mixing that brown into the green to get a kind of army green. I'm going to try to get most of it off and do this tree back here. A little bit of it. I don't know if that's paint I spilled there or what. But I like the way it frames the roof here. Now, the left side of the building, I need a blue, so put some cerulean in that, and maybe indigo. I need a blue, earthy blue, kind of. I'm going to paint through the door there, or the window, or whatever it is. And then down into it too, because it's darker in there. I'm going to put a bit of that in here too. In here we've got a dark, let's get some ultramarine into that for yet a different blue, indigo and ultramarine. Bit of shadow, some light. Let's put some lavender in. A lighter version of that. So water and same thing underneath this. The roof overhangs the wall a bit. Now, I'm going to let that set up, and I'm going to get some burr number or red iron oxide, and I'm just going to touch where the red meets the blue. And I'm going to need something similar to that. What I've done is, I don't know if you can see this, I've flattened that brush out. Hello, Leah. Leah's been here, so you remember Kwasi and the deputy mayor, Jackie. He was, what a guy. I'm going to start smuggling some of that redder color in places. I'm going to put some of it in this lavender, or I'm going to make a lavender gray brown look. Let's go back and take a look at these posts. Try to get some clues off of that. And more lavender in there. There's some kind of something over there. I am going to blot the brush to get the paint off, put it down in here, and it makes you can see this, a footprint when you press in, which means there's not a whole lot of paint on it. And this hopefully will give me somewhat, and then get some of it in earnest, and tip into that to hopefully get the look of the stone a bit more. It does get a little bit darker and browner in places. I'm guessing owing to the fact that no two stones are equally colored. Of course, this is something at a larger scale you could do much more easily. So, again, rinsing, blotting that brush, and getting the footprint. Try to accomplish that here too. Put a little more red in it, purpley red. Try it. Get a footprint. Do this. Even I'd like to see a little bit of that in here too, I think. Keep the darker edge forward. Now if you get too much, quick rinse, squeeze, soften. There is something of a capstone row on the top of the wall there, so that casts a bit of a shadow. Where can I differentiate this a little more? Some stuff there. Let's get a alizarin and burnt umber hot edge right there. Then I'm going to mix some indigo into that. Within this, there are some openings of some sort. I'm going to try to suggest those. Rinse, cerulean in this. Probably medium blue. Let's put some shadows on the wall, from the foliage. Okay, some of that color, maybe a little more of the lavender, a little bit of the brown for the post. Now I need to, we're getting close, we're getting close. I need to put in some more flowers on there a little later. I need to do some fun things. Let's get some indigo, some Prussian, a rich blue-green, more blue than green, and smear them vertically to suggest some grass. Touch some there. Then I'm going to rinse that and bring a damp brush to that. Try to soften that. Let's do that again. I'm going to introduce the shadow from stage right. Try to lead our eye with some Z-shaped paths. So when I touch these splatter spots with that, it sort of softens them. I could even paint a few tall grasses. Be careful with those. Hi, Joe. Don't make them the same size. Don't make them the same regular spacing. Linda, hello. As they go back, they'll get shorter and thinner and lighter. Don't pitch them all the same way. All things to be careful of. So let's get some water with that. And this is actually, I'm glazing in a sense. I'm tinting some of those lighter white spots so that they don't look like flowers, but they just look like lighter areas of grass, or lighter grasses. And maybe we can make the holy mess look holy tidy. Is that a word? Okay, we're getting closer, we're getting closer. Almost there. Now, yeah, that little capstone shadow I think needs a little more emphasis. I'm going to put a little bit under here, even though it's not really there. I need to get into my indigo. Oops, not the Prussian, the indigo. And the red, like alizarin, to make a deep, rich, royal, violety color. Put that now, how about some flowers? Well, I think I need a little more darkness under here. There, yeah, maybe over here too. Disappears around the corner. I do need to, that's sticking out like a Christmas tree thing now. Make that gray kind of color. Do want a bit more variation on this. Like that better. Maybe some of that down here too. The closer stones are going to be more apparent. All right. Flowers on the tree, or hydrangeas, or whatever the heck those things are. I'm going to get a pointy, stiff brush. Well, now I'm looking at, those still need to be tinted a little bit pale greenish. These white bits. Let's reestablish our Z. Okay. Gouache right out of the tube. Oh, I see. Well, I'll correct it after I do this. Right, squeeze it right up there. Clump them. Again, not like pepperoni on a pizza. Well, they're happening over here and they shouldn't be, so I'm going to have to tint those. Okay, rinse that. creamy yellow. We're going to have yellow flowers here. That's right into the cad yellow light. And it's going to dry it back. It's not going to be as prominent as the white gouache. But let's even have a few of those in here too. Subtle. We don't want take away from. You could mix a little bit of white with your yellow. If you wanted something a bit more opaque. Oh yeah. Faux gouache. And again, with those, we want to be sure that we clump them, maybe make them a little bit different in size. Hey, Joey. And they, too, I'm hoping will function as a lead us up kind of effect. And then one last thing, and I think I will detape so I can see better. Be careful when you're getting the caps back on your gouache. It's terribly prone to drying. I think I want to take the wall a little darker. So that it's just a bit darker than the white of the blossoms. So now you've got a sort of an idea, I hope, of the sort of decisions and things that I make while I'm painting or when I come across a subject. And it's going to get some of that lavender and brown and sort of a palette mess. And close to the tree with the blossoms, I'm going to make it a little darker. And in places here, I believe there. And then there's this business here, which I think I'm just going to, I want a dark, a nondescript, greenish, purplish. It looks like there's actually some sort of lean-to building back there. On a frame, yeah, I like that better. I like that better. Okay, so what goes through a painter's head while he's painting? It's kind of what I wanted to present today. There we go. Oh, thanks, James. Thanks, Becky. Greens. Well, greens, we got to make friends with them because spring is coming. I think I just want to get a few more. Nondescript, abstract looking shapes. Yeah, there we go. And we do need to come out underneath this fellow. Oh, no, it's not a fellow, it's flowering. This lady. And make some non-existent but serendipitous connectors from one object to another. I'm going to suggest there's some little weeds right about in the front of this building so that it softens that hard corner. And certainly something like that could grow there. And there we have it. Oh, thank you, Judy. They were there. I'm sort of, one of the things I wanted to get over in this lesson was the fact that as we walk by this place and just enjoy it, we're seeing multiple views. So when I come back and I'm thinking about that place I was at, all of these things are combined into one mental image for me. And as painters, we can do that. The photographer doesn't quite have that sort of leeway. He kind of has, unless he's going to, do some heavy-duty Photoshop. And some of them do, to good effect. But to me, you don't stand stiff like an Egyptian and see one thing like a camera on a tripod has to, or in your hand has to. So we walk by things, we walk around them, our experiences tends to be a little more non-linear. And as painters, we can convey that. So, thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed it. Oh, thank you, Wayne. Everybody stay safe, stay sane, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.